then a do-upper all well. Now yesterday, Right Honourable Dame Diana Johnson, Labour MP for Kingston upon Hull North, was delivering the Select Committee statement on the first report of the Home Affairs Committee Channel Crossings Migration and Asylum, HC 194. Now, to say it was rather damning of this extreme Brexit Tory government's cruel and disgusting attitude towards vulnerable people is quite eye-opening.
Dame Diana Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I start by thanking the Backbench Business Committee for allocating time for this statement today. On Monday this week, as the Home Affairs Select Committee report on Channel Crossings, Migration and Asylum was published, the number of people who had made the dangerous journey across the English Channel from France to the United Kingdom rose above 15,000 this year. Last year, the figure was 28,500. And this year, the Home Office predictions suggest that as many as 60,000 people may arrive on our shores on makeshift, leaky dinghies, hardly worthy of the name of boat, wearing life jackets more likely to drown them than save them. Members of my committee and I saw recently at Dover the arrival of 2 such vessels, crowded mainly with men, but with women and small children also on board these potential death traps. At least 166 people have lost their lives in the Channel since the committee began its inquiry into Channel crossings, and 27 of them drowning on a single awful day last November. But despite the risk of dying, people still come. The day after 27 people died, 40 more came. And witnesses we spoke to talked of making 2, 3, 4 failed journeys from the French coast, turned back by leaking boats, by wind and waves, before finally reaching the British coast or being escorted to safety by British vessels, including the Navy and the RNLI. Now, these journeys are fuelled by evil criminal traffickers trading in human misery. But those who risk their lives, and sometimes the lives of their small children, to come here are so desperate to do so. They are willing to take any risk. Stopping these dangerous journeys must be one of the highest priorities of a civilised society, and the committee supports both national and international action to stop these criminal gangs preying on vulnerable people. Now, the Home Office have asked for ideas on how to do that, and our report seeks to provide some clear proposals of a way forward.
They'll probably ignore them then, won't they?
Before I set out a few of our key recommendations, I want to thank the clerks and the staff of the Home Affairs Select Committee for their sterling work, and particularly our clerks Elizabeth Hunt and now David Weir. I also want to thank all the members of the committee whose membership has changed quite a few times over the course of this inquiry, including the previous chair, the Right Honourable Member for Normanton, Pontefract and Castleford. Finally, a very big thank you to all those who contributed by providing evidence and personal testimony to the inquiry. So, turning to the findings of our report, we conclude that there is no magical single solution to the problems posed by irregular migration in a world where millions of people have been displaced from their homes by war, by famine, by local terrorism and by economic necessity. We are very clear that detailed, evidence-driven, properly costed and fully tested policy initiatives are by far the most likely to achieve sustainable, incremental change, rather than a headline-grabbing initiative lacking in a rigorous evidence base and with unclear costings. We agree that safe and legal routes for those in search of secure homes are essential to bringing the business model of the criminals who prey on vulnerable people. The UK is currently spending £1.5 billion a year on its asylum system. We house asylum seekers and refugees in hotels at a cost of nearly £5 million a day. We agree with the Home Secretary that the asylum system is broken and that this is unsustainable. We do not agree that it was those who seek safety by crossing the Channel who broke the system. The Home Office urgently needs to reduce the asylum backlog. The number of people coming to the UK each year is relatively stable, around 48,000 last year. But the time being taken to grant asylum or make another determination has steadily risen. So we recommend addressing the work-in-progress caseload of 125,000 as a priority. That means hard, invisible grind, having enough trained staff who remain in their posts long enough to make a difference, effective IT systems, swifter and better decision making. The most cost-effective way to cut the cost would be to have fewer people in the asylum system, and the most effective way to do that is to get people out of it quicker through faster decision making. 449 days for an average decision is simply far too long. No child should wait 550 days, the average time taken, to find out what their future is in the foreign country they've come to. Next, international cooperation is also needed for what is a worldwide problem. For us, that means better and more cooperation, particularly with the French, stepping up more joint working. However, we also recognise that the French themselves need to do more. One of the committee's key recommendations is seeking a deal with France to process asylum claims to the UK on French soil in reception centres, possibly on a pilot basis, and with a guarantee that those not granted asylum here would remain in France. We already have juxtaposed passport control, so the French are at Dover and the UK authorities at Calais. So this arrangement does have some precedent, but we accept that it is politically contentious. The Home Secretary has in the past suggested such a plan might draw more migrants to France in search of asylum in the UK. However, we believe that it should be seriously considered as one of a suite of policies which together could make an impact on the current dire situation. It could prevent people from feeling the need to cross the Channel unsafely in unseaworthy boats, and it could save lives. The committee also recommends seeking closer cooperation with the EU. Brexit meant an end to the Dublin arrangement for returning people to other EU countries when their claims were unsuccessful here. It wasn't perfect, with fewer returns than successive governments wanted under that arrangement, but there are now hardly any such returns. The Minister told us that only 5 people who'd crossed in small boats last year between January and November were returned. And the government's hope of bilateral deals with individual EU countries has clearly not been realised. So provision of safe and legal routes for refugees, a realistic recognition that the UK is neither the least nor the most generous host in Europe or in the wider world, and a willingness to cooperate fully with our nearest neighbours by sharing intelligence and equipment to identify and undermine people smuggling criminal organisations, may not offer the eye-catching headlines, but are most likely to work. I just want to say something about unaccompanied children. The practice of placing unaccompanied children in hotels has resulted in an unknown number of children disappearing, either temporarily or in some cases permanently. We recommend that the government urgently confirm who is responsible for safeguarding these children and tell us what it is doing to prevent children, alone and potentially vulnerable, simply vanishing from sight into unknown hands and unknown futures. We also make recommendations about the need to review the experience and the process that children go through when claiming asylum. Concerns around age assessments, the right to legal advice, for an adult to support a child through the process, and for the rules around family reunion to be expanded are all key recommendations. Finally, I just want to mention Rwanda. We have not yet come to a firm conclusion on that policy. We expect to return to it as and when anyone is relocated to Rwanda. There is, though, yet no evidence that the Rwanda policy is deterring crossings. Last week, according to figures very helpfully published on the Ministry of Defence website, a total of 1,474 people in 39 boats came to the United Kingdom, and the trend is up over the last 3 weeks. There's also not any clear idea about how much this policy will cost or how many people could be relocated to Rwanda under it. Should it survive its ongoing legal challenges, we will return to it, but it is a very good example of why a fully worked out policy might work better than one that's announced before detailed planning has been done to work out how a policy will work and succeed. which is why the committee recommends that the Home Office undertake detailed policy work ahead of announcing such policies and plans. We're also very mindful of the unusual step of a ministerial direction having to be issued in this case, one of only 2 in 30 years in the Home Office, as the Permanent Secretary was not satisfied with the evidence of the deterrent effect of this policy being value for money. So, in conclusion, our report is the result of more than 2 years' worth of evidence gathering, in which the numbers crossing the Channel irregularly rose from around 2,000 in 2019 towards, as I said, an estimated 60,000 this year. Urgent action is needed to stem this dangerous tide, and I commend the report to this House.
Tony Benn put it really well for me when he said the way a government treats refugees is rather instructive, because if they felt they could get away with it, they would do exactly the same to you, and they would. And the thing is, I have a lot of respect for Diana Johnson as well, and I could have even mentioned the Dr. Martin Niemöller quote as well, but for time's constraints I'm not going to. You guys are intelligent enough to know what it is. But what I like of her, because especially when she made a tit out of Tom Pear's glove that time. I'll see if I can find the video and leave a link in description box below for you. And especially when she made a tit out of the bodge, you know, when she got him to admit that he unofficially met Alexander Lebedev. Brilliant. So I totally agree with a hell of a lot she had to say. Do you? I could go on, but, this video's gone on long enough, so I shall leave the video here, and until the next time, I shall bid you farewell and take care.